So, we are still in Disney month. So with it being Disney month, there has to be a video, of course, talking about some of my favourite Disney films. Now, of course, Disney have made live action as well as animated, but of course, let's face it, it's their animated films they're most remembered for. They've been making them back since the 30s, and a lot of them are pretty much classics. Hell, they even call them classics. And because of that, I thought I would go through some of my favourites. So I thought, as I usually do 5 favourites, I'm going to do my 5 favourite Disney films. Now, because I grew up in the 90s, a lot of the films that I have mainly watched multiple times is ones from the 90s, because I used to watch them all the time on VHS. Not so much the classic ones. In fact, complete honesty, I hadn't actually seen a lot of the classic Disney films until last year, when I went on a whole try to watch them all before going to Disneyland. I got up to about Beauty and the Beast, so I did watch all the classic ones. So what I thought I would do is do my favourite Disney film from each era, sort of. So like one, the classic ones coming up to near the 90s, one more sort of 90s, 2000s in the Renaissance era, and then more of a modern one. And also one of my favourite Pixar films I thought I would include as well. So yeah, so these are my 5 favourite Disney animated films. So, going all the way back to the 40s, my first favourite is Dumbo. Now, Dumbo I do actually vaguely remember watching bits of when I was younger. So, like, when it was on the telly, I might have watched half of it, or I might have watched bits here and there. I definitely knew quite a bit about the actual story of Dumbo, about a baby elephant who's not very popular because he has big, giant ears, and then, of course, learns that he can fly with them. What I did find quite surprising was he doesn't actually fly much. Like, it's not really until the end of the film that he actually does it, like the last 15 minutes or so. The rest of the film is pretty much just about him trying to deal with living in this circus, along with his little friend Timothy, I think, while his mum is locked up for trying to defend her son against some horrible people. And then, yeah, everybody just abusing poor... I mean, look, they dress him up like a clown with a little white face and everything and his little hat. It's so sad. You feel so sorry for little Dumbo. But I like it because Dumbo is cute. It's a cute little film. And I like it. It's really bizarre because it has the whole pink elephants on parade part, which is really kind of... where did that come from? But I like the way the story sort of plays out. You feel sorry for everything goes bad, but then it has a really happy ending. And I always kind of thought the mother died, but I thought if she did, I'm pretty sure that would have become, like with Bambi's mum, that would have become like legend, well-known death. So I'm glad that didn't happen. So yes, I definitely enjoyed Dumbo. So moving on to the 60s, my next favourite is The Jungle Book. Now, The Jungle Book is actually one of the few classic, like, pre-90s films, Disney films, that I actually owned on VHS and watched multiple times. Possibly because I think it was re-released in cinemas around the early 90s, and that's where I saw it at the cinema, and that's how I decided I wanted to own it. Because I didn't own a lot of Disney films. I usually only got a video when it was my birthday or Christmas. But yeah, I do remember watching this one a lot, and I've seen it so many times, and it's such a fun adventure through the jungle with these enjoyable characters, some really catchy songs. Yeah, it's just a really enjoyable, feel-good film. As I say, good characters, a kind of intimidating, as well as sophisticated villain, which I thought was good. Some really genuine sort of tension in parts as well, like actual fear that Mowgli's going to get killed by this thing. So, yeah, for that, there's not really a lot to say. I think the songs, all the songs are really good, with the possible exception of the last one. It's a bit forgettable. But otherwise, yeah, I really like The Jungle Book. And coming into the 90s, my favourite 90s film is Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, I remember seeing this one at the cinema when I visited Butlins. I think I saw it a couple of times. I had it on VHS. I watched it a lot. I am not a big fan of the whole princess one. As you can sort of see, I like the animals normally. So the sort of princess stories never really interested me as much, and they still don't. But Beauty and the Beast, Belle is a much different kind of princess. For starters, she's not really a princess until, I guess, the end. So she's not born into royalty or anything. She's a tough character. She's a nice character. She's a bookworm. You know, there's a lot of really cool things about her as a character. Her relationship with the Beast is very well developed throughout. I like the side characters of the Candlestick, Lumiere, Mrs. Potts, and all of that. With a surprise, I never knew who his voice was. It's the father from Dirty Dancing. That bewildered me when I found out. So yeah, so much about it is really enjoyable. I love the music for it. Not just the songs, the actual music itself, the instrumental score. I think it's beautiful. I think it's one of the best of all the Disney films. I absolutely adore it. It's very atmospheric as well, and the castle is beautiful. I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful film. And with a good villain who's not like... He's a jerk and he's an asshole, but you don't think he's necessarily going to be the main villain in it, and yet he does. So yeah, it's just from beginning to end, it's an enjoyable film. I watched multiple times when I was a kid, and I will continue to watch it throughout my life. So coming into the more modern films of the last 10 years, Wreck-It Ralph. Yeah, this one I saw at the cinema. I really liked it at the cinema. I love the fact that there's got so many gamer... I mean, I'm not the biggest gamer. In fact, I barely play games. I'm more of a social gamer these days. I only really play on the Switch with my boyfriend and when I'm with a group of friends. So But yeah, of course it's got a lot of old school references, because I used to play Mega Drive, PlayStation. I used to be a bigger gamer than I am these days. I used to play a lot when I was younger. So of course I recognised a lot of the old school characters. But aside from that, it didn't rely on that too heavily. It created unique characters, ones that were unique to this, like Ralph and Fix-It Felix and stuff. And they are all enjoyable in their own right. I think, Ralph himself is sort of an anti-hero. He's not the nicest guy necessarily, but he's also not, he's picked as the villain. He's the villain in his computer game, but he doesn't want to be that way. And he's got this lovely mantra that he repeats in therapy and at the end, which is absolutely amazing. I love it. And that whole end bit, I love that whole mantra. I think it's brilliant. Yeah, I did find his interaction with the Vanellope's character could get annoying in parts, but in a way they actually do develop quite a fun relationship, and I'm really looking forward to the sequel. The sequel's coming out, I think, at the end of this year. I'm pretty sure it's the end of this year, and I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, I really like the characters, I like the story, I like the references to the computer games and everything like that. It's just a thoroughly enjoyable film. So moving on to Pixar, now just to pick one was kind of hard, because Pixar have had a lot of good films. And I don't think I've seen all of them actually. I think there's maybe one or two that I haven't seen. And of course they've got a new Pixar film coming out soon, which is Incredibles 2. But despite that, I went for the one that I probably enjoyed the most watching it and watching it again, Inside Out. I think it's a very clever idea. I love the idea of the being characters also inside your head with different characteristics, but also the way those emotions interact, how they affect you growing up. The fact that the actual story itself, when you look at it from the girl's perspective, it's big events, but it's nothing like world-shattering or anything like that. It's just what's going on inside this girl's head. But that in itself causes a drama, because of course a lot of drama goes on inside of our heads, when outside not a lot seems to, it doesn't seem that earth-shattering. But yet, when you're of the age that this girl is, everything is. And of course, when they're trying to chase the memories and trying to stop basically bad things from happening inside her head, and Joy can get a bit too much maybe, but again, she just wants to make the little girl whose head she's in happy. And I thought I like the way that Sadness has a purpose. Sadness is not just the downer. It's like, oh god, cheer up, for Christ's sake. She has a purpose. She's quite funny in her own way as well, and a lot of the characters are fun, and I just really enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it more watching it a second time round. But I like the way the story went, and I like that it wasn't a big, huge sort of epic film necessarily. It was just like, the dramas of growing up in it, growing up. Some of the things you have to deal with when you're growing up. And I'm hoping they kind of make a sequel to it, because it'll be interesting to see how your emotions and everything change when you're at puberty, because they hinted at that at the end. So yeah, I really liked Inside Out. So there we go. My favourite Disney animated films. Of course, there were so many more that I enjoy as well. I love like I said, the 90s ones were really hard to choose because I also really enjoyed Aladdin and Lion King. But I think Beauty and the Beast was the one I just maybe enjoyed a bit more. So yeah. So I hope you found that interesting. And next week I would like to do a movie review. I did have a movie in mind to do, which I don't think I can now. So I'm going to have to find something else. But definitely next week I want to review a Disney film. Just not going to say which one. See you then.